Hey everybody, Nathaniel Bungie here for TechSession with your full review of the Kicker Amphitheater 2 Bluetooth speaker. This is a tabletop or desktop speaker not meant to be taken around, but it supports Bluetooth, USB, and auxiliary input to give you amazingly loud and bass-heavy room-filling sound. Obviously this is not the product, this is right here, and you can immediately see why it has the name it has of Amphitheater. It kind of curves like a theater would, and it's just a really clever naming scheme by Kicker, in my opinion. So let's dive in a little bit closer and see what we have going on. First and foremost, we have a remote control. You can see we have our volume manipulation, source, and mute. We have our reverse and forward play and pause, and then we have our bass and treble equalizers, as well as the Kicker model number down there. The bottom, you have your coin cell battery replacement door. I haven't needed to do that yet, and it should last a fairly long time as well, because coin cell batteries are meant to do that. This remote is nice and ergonomic in your hand too. You can see here we have a curve, and that just really fits however you're holding it, and you can get easy access to these buttons as well. Feels like a pretty durable remote. It is plastic, but you're not going to be taking this all over, as I mentioned, so all it has to do is just sit here whenever you need it. I'm not entirely sure how this remote communicates with the speaker, as it has a very short range and has to be specifically pointed. I also don't see any little IR emitter, so I really don't know how it works. All I know is it does work as long as you're within a fairly close range. So don't be expecting to go across the room, smashing the buttons and controlling the speaker, because it just won't work like that. Onto the speaker itself, you can see we have our silver trim down here with the metallic Kicker logo, as well as a glossy strip here, which is most likely used for wireless communication. On the left top of the speaker, it's a little bit difficult to see, but we have our source and pairing button here, and we have our mute button. And on the other side of the speaker, we have our volume up and down buttons. These are all made of plastic as well, nice glossy plastic. They're fairly clicky, don't have much travel, but that's why you have the remote essentially, so you don't need to come up here and be mashing these buttons all day. You also get a nice little view of the curve of the speaker here as well, and you saw a sneak peek of the back, which is what we're going to get to later, and that's essentially how you can tell this is a Kicker product, is what's on the back. So if you look in here, you can see we have our drivers, kind of difficult to see, but they're nice and big here too, and that's part of the reason you get such room-filling sound is because of those. You can see we have smaller drivers, larger drivers, just basically everything you can come across is in this speaker. On the bottom, try not to damage anything, we have our rubber feet, which are actually kind of dirty. Okay, so I got a little bit of water on my finger now. We're just going to see if that helps, and it does. So you can see if you need to clean these off ever, a little bit of water should do the trick, and they're going to get them nice and sticky like they were straight out of the factory. And this could also be why I was experiencing a little bit of a problem with the table rattling, is because the speaker wasn't gripping it like it used to. But we don't need to talk about that anymore. Essentially, these are your rubber feet that grab the table, and you will eventually need to clean them. I also did have a problem with one of these coming off the speaker as well. That was obviously not something I wanted to see out of the speaker, but that could have been my fault. I was trying to drag it on the table, essentially, and it didn't drag because these were grabbing it, and it could have peeled off from that, but who knows. Anyway, we have more of the speaker to talk about, so we're not going to spend too much time on the small stuff. Right there in the middle of the speaker, you can see we have a little label, and if we bring it in closer, you can get a little bit of a better idea of what we're dealing with here. This basically just has your information about the product, your certifications, a little bit of FCC stuff, everything nobody cares about, and they're also never going to see because it's on the bottom. So if we turn it over, the speaker's kind of heavy to hold, I'm not going to lie. We have our connectivity. From left to right, we have reset, our power switch, our DC 24 volt input, our auxiliary input, and then our USB port. USB port will deliver music to the speaker. So if you don't have aux for some odd reason or another, or if you don't just want to use aux or Bluetooth, that's also an option as well. Something I forgot to mention about the USB port down here, this does also charge your device, not super quickly, but it doesn't really need to as it's a speaker. And if you have this plugged in, you're going to have somewhere to plug your phone in next to it most likely. And then right here, we have the feature that proves this is a Kicker product. We have the square sub. As you'd probably expect, it does deliver incredible bass, to the point of me going upstairs and feeling the house shaking. That's something that I think is awesome. I am totally into bass, and it appealed to me immediately. I mean, there's not much more I can say about it. This Just if you have a lot of bass in the speaker, you're going to win me over pretty easily. If I remember correctly, this is a 6-inch square subwoofer right here. It does have some kicker branding down on the bottom. And this thing will obviously go crazy, be putting out a ton of air while you have your music playing, so you don't want to put this too close to a wall or block it or anything, because you wouldn't want your sound to sound distorted, and you wouldn't want to break the speaker. This is actually a nice complement to those 5-inch mid-bass speakers on the front, so you just get a real punch out of the speaker. And then those 3/4-inch silk dome tweeters, which we were talking about before on the front corners, those give the rest of your soundstage life. And there's really not much I can say about those because they're not the primary feature of the speaker. The bass and the connectivity is, in my opinion. Speaking of connectivity, you can also go ahead and download the Kickstart app from the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. You can adjust the equalizer, connection status, and more from your phone on the fly. But now on to the sound quality of this baby. The highs are awesome. It gets really, 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 really loud, almost to the point of it being too loud for me to sit in front of it, which I love because there are times where I need a lot of volume in my house, and this definitely does the job. The mid-range is not really there, partly because you have speakers dedicated to the really high stuff and speakers dedicated to the really low stuff, and they have to work together to bring you the mid. I really don't think it's that great. But as I've already mentioned, a lot of times, the bass is the key feature of the speaker through the square sub here, and the bass is awesome. This thing will be going and going and going, standing rock solid on the table, shaking everything on the table, vibrating your floorboards, and you can also hear the punch in the room, which is really, really nice. I did notice, oddly enough, better audio quality through Bluetooth than auxiliary, which was a little bit interesting considering that's usually not the case in my experience. But that also could be due to the fact I was using a 50-foot auxiliary cable. Don't ask why, but I was. And then USB, that worked as advertised. I had no problems with that. It actually worked in iOS and Android too, so you shouldn't have a problem no matter which camp you're coming from. And if there is one main gripe about this speaker, it would have to be the Bluetooth. It's really not that great. I'm not talking about sound quality, because when you do get it to connect, the sound quality over Bluetooth is awesome, as I mentioned, but I just had a lot of trouble getting it to connect. My devices would have it as a, I guess like a historically paired device, or remembered device, or whatever, but even if the speaker was in Bluetooth mode, it wouldn't connect. If I threw the speaker in pairing mode, forgot the device's Bluetooth connection to this, reset the speaker, it would occasionally go, but I really found myself having to use auxiliary more than I would have liked to, because of that. This could totally be a problem on my end and not one with the speaker, as I've never heard any other complaints about this speaker, but I really think that Bluetooth connection is a pain in the butt, because Bluetooth is the key feature of the speaker. It's a set it and forget it speaker, looks good as a decoration, which means you don't want to go up to it and be hitting a button all the time to reset it, or be forgetting it on your phone. It's just a lot more of a problem than it's worth. So how do you know which mode you're in if you want to play a different source and you can't hear the sound? Well, you hit this button, and there's a little tiny LED that will appear at the bottom of the Kicker logo that will turn blue for Bluetooth, purplish, pinkish for auxiliary, and then yellow for USB. Occasionally when pairing through Bluetooth, I've seen it turn white. I have absolutely no clue what it's doing then, but it turns white. So in summary, how does this speaker do? I think this speaker does incredibly. Especially if you're somebody that likes the low end like I do, this speaker is going to just absolutely amaze you in terms of both quality and punch. It's not a huge speaker, like, yes, it's big, but it's not huge, and it's surprising what it can push out thanks to that square sub on the back. Just something that's totally unique, and you probably won't find that in any other Bluetooth speaker. The speaker retails for a couple $100 both on Kicker's website and Amazon, so it's not ultra affordable, but I wouldn't expect it to be. You're getting the typical Kicker quality, which you can expect, as well as amazing sound. And all these connection options too definitely don't help the price stay down, but I would have no problem paying full retail for this speaker. Speaking of that, I did not pay for this speaker. I was sent it by Kicker to review. This is still my honest opinion though, and whenever I do a review like this, I should add, I try to find the bad things. I don't want to just say all the good things, because then it's going to sound like I was paid, and I wasn't. Every single product I've ever reviewed on the channel was sent to me, essentially. But it's my straight-up honest review. I wouldn't feel comfortable lying to you guys, and at the same time, I want the manufacturer's products to improve. Because if I was lying, they'd think their product was perfect, And I don't like that, because then that means every product after that would have the same flaws. So hopefully, some of the problems I've gone over with this speaker and other products in the past, those problems will be addressed. Well, that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to tell you I highly recommend this speaker. Pick it up in the link in the description and check out my Rubla review, which is coming soon. So until next time, this is Nathaniel Bungie from TechSession with the full review of the Kicker Amphitheater 2 Bluetooth speaker. See you later.